Because we're going to talk a little bit about pulmonary vein anomalies later on in the session, twice or so. And you can see here the spine, the descending aorta, the pulmonary veins draining into the left atrium, septum primum within the left atrium, etc., etc. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare normal and abnormal anatomy for you. So here's the left and right atrium, left and right ventricle, and here's a normal fetal exam. Note the pulmonary veins coming into the back of the left atrium. Septum primum is bulging from the left atrium into the right atrium because of the streaming of umbilical venous blood into the left atrium in fetal life. And you can see that the base is descending very well and the ventricular function is good. Here are some fetuses with Epstein's malformation and a heart cut in the position of Epstein's malformation. So you can see the very enlarged right atrium. This is a postnatal example that had been cut in standard projection and glued back together with a glue called crazy glue. And you can see the anterior leaflet of the tricuspid valve. You can see a remnant of the septal leaflet, but the mural leaflet or the inferior leaflet of the tricuspid valve is plastered on the ventricular septum, on the posterior wall, I beg your pardon, of the right ventricle, and yields this kind of pattern with massive tricuspid regurgitation, which sets up the right atrial enlargement. Not all of them are the same. Here is a heart. I hope this works. It's not moving. Yeah, there it is. And you see the offsetting. Let me just go back a bit there. Here's the mitral and tricuspid offset from one another in a four-chamber view, not like you see here over here, but markedly offset one from the other. And you can see that although it's offset in a true expression of Epstein's malformation, is that there is not a very severe degree of AV valve or tricuspid valve regurgitation. Here I've just magnified that up. This is a 19-week gestation. And already at 19 weeks, this fetus is set up to have serious Epstein's malformation at birth. And one of the things we know about Epstein's is that after birth, Epstein's accounts for a very small percentage, about 3 for 10,000 deliveries. Okay? But in utero, it's the fourth or the fifth highest diagnosis by Lindsay Allen's famous study. So what happens is that many Epstein's malformations are succumbing in utero, and we'll go over that later on today. But here you see already the tricuspid regurgitation, the offsetting between the mitral and tricuspid valve leaflets, and this is the left atrium on this side. This is the right atrium here, which is enlarged. And you can already see that this fetus has got a substantial amount of AV valve regurg. And of course the specimen doesn't move, but you can see the offset difference between the mitral and the tricuspid valves. This is just let me go over these here. Well, this is the same baby that I showed you before. We're looking, here's the chest wall, here's the spine at the back, here's the baby's neck, okay? So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the descending aorta and the ductus over here. And as you know, red flow is coming forward. So this baby is perfusing its pulmonary arteries through the arterial duct. The duct is patent and it's perfusing the pulmonary arteries, but there's no real forward flow across the valve. And this is the tricuspid valve with tricuspid regurgitation. Here we take this and slice in this direction, turn it around 90 degrees and we get this. So we have the chest wall, we have the spine down here, we have the heart here. This is right atrium and right ventricle. This is a small right ventricle over here. This is the atrial right ventricle. There's the descending aorta. Here's the right pulmonary artery. Here's the spine, here's the descending aorta, and you can see the arterial duct here is shunting left to right in the womb. The blood is coming from the aorta and going into the pulmonary artery. So what that does is it changes the position of the pulmonary artery. And here, on the bottom frame, we can see a probe placed in such an artery here. Just excuse me a minute. There it is. And this valve is entirely closed off. So during the course of pregnancy, because the valve was held closed, it developed fusion on it and it became an atretic pulmonary valve. And this is what happened at 20 weeks in this heart. Here's the pulmonary valve on M mode, opening beautifully, and by 36 weeks, it looked like this. So we can see the evolution of this disease in utero is quite profound. The next thing that we did is we looked at this evidence of the size of the atrialized right ventricle and the right atrium to the rest of the heart. And we've just done that flow limiter here with this system. And what we find in this system is that when this area became equal to that area, the babies did very poorly. And we published this paper in 1989, and Dr. Sellermeyer came and he asked me whether he could explore this a little bit further, and he did that, and he got this thing over here to show mild, moderate, and severe stenosis, as you see here. And you can see this is big but nothing. Here's a little regurgitation. Here's a fairly substantial amount of regurgitation, and this is trivial regurgitation across the valve. So Epstein's has a vast expression. Okay. It came back again. The other thing that became valuable to us was the use of Doppler color flow for knowing other things. When you see this picture without a color, there's almost nothing to see on it. But look, the whole vascular system is shown here. Here's the descending aorta, here's the celiac artery, here's the superior mesenteric artery, here's the iliac vessels, here's the umbilical artery, here's the umbilical vein, here's the constricted ductus venosus going into the atrium, and here's the rest of the heart. And this is a cast from Dr. Rudolph's laboratory, which shows the venous anatomy. Here's the inferior vena cava, here the hepatic veins, here's the umbilical vein, here's the portal vein, and here's the ductus venosus. And on this ductus venosus, you can see a constriction there. And that constriction is due to the sphincter of the ductus venosus. And that has been proven to be very valuable, because when that ductus venosus loses tone is an indication that the fetus is very sick. And so here's a normal pattern that you see this V and A wave, or the X and the Y descent here, and you see biphasic signal, but the flow is continuously forward, as you see here. But when this sphincter relaxes, then you see atrial contraction coming down and into the circulation. And one of the things that this ductus tone may well do is it may well hold the pulsatile flow from coming back into the venous circulation and allow and not impede systemic venous filling through the arterial duct. The other thing that we know that it does is by causing a constriction, it takes all of this very oxygen-rich blood over here and shunts it directly into the left atrium. So when this isn't there, there's admixture of the structure. All right, so we've seen that Epstein. I don't know why I've got two of them here. So here is another slice from this textbook, which you can buy online. It's another book that I wrote with a guy called Chiappa. It's published by Springer, and it's downloadable as a PDF, so you can have this. And here you can see as fetus sliced through. Here's the vertebral bodies, here's the trachea, Here's the innominate vein, the innominate artery, the arch of the aorta, the bronchovascular bundle with the right pulmonary artery and the right bronchus up here, the left atrium seen behind, the right atrium in front, inferior vena cava and ductus venosus here. Sorry. And here you can see again the whole venous circulation exactly as it's shown in this circulation. Here's the right atrial appendage, here's the atrial septum, here's septum primum, flipping biphasically in the left atrium, and you see the whole arch of the aorta and vessels to the head and neck. You can even see this little pulsatile structure here, which is the remnant of the internal mammary artery, which can be seen very nicely in the fetus and defines the position of the thymus. Here's just a picture of the ventricular septum. You'll see this again. This is the right side of the ventricular septum, the left side, completely different. Coarse trabeculations, a papillary muscle of the conus and a moderator band, a separation between the tricuspid and the pulmonary valve, which is called the crista terminalis or ventricular infundibular fold, the bright reflective echo of the membranous septum. There's the membranous septum on the left side. The left ventricle is very businesslike and doesn't have many features, except the apex has got fine rather than coarse trabeculations across it, and it has a smooth upper border. And the mitral valve, which is not seen here, is continuous with the posterior and left coronary cusps. And when we divide the left side of the right side of the heart, we see that this is where the papillary muscles are subtended, so we call this the inlet septum. We know that this over here is the outlet septum, and the rest of the septum is called the muscular or trabecular septum. And of course, this part that we didn't talk about, which is the membranous septum. And if you look at it from the left side, you see that as well. But it's not so easily definable on a morphological basis from the left side of the heart. Now, VSDs, we'll come to talk about this a little later, can exist anywhere through the atrial septum, through the ventricular septum. Here's the moderator band. Here's where perimembranous VSDs are. This is where the inlet defects are. This is the doubly committed subarterial, and these are muscular. And my one colleague who's gone to do EP was telling me I was be talking this afternoon about the conducting tissue and its relationship to various VSDs. So if you have a VSD here in the membranous septal area or in a cone of ventricular from tetralogy, for example, the conducting tissue is bare in the septum here. Now, I don't know why we're going back to Epstein's malformation. I apologize for this. But what this shows is the physiology of Epstein's malformation. And the physiology of Epstein's malformation is a circular shunt. Because with the tricuspid regurgitation, the pulmonary valve, the right ventricle is unable to open the pulmonary valve. So the blood comes through the arterial duct and keeps the pulmonary valve in the closed position, or allows a little pulmonary insufficiency. So then if there's pulmonary insufficiency, the blood comes back into the right ventricle, then the tricuspid regurgitation takes the blood into the right atrium, and there's a right to left atrial shunt. So the blood in Epstein's is going the wrong way, which is why it becomes such a profound disease. And when that happens, of course, the ductus only has to supply the pulmonary blood flow, which is very small, and so you can see that the duct is not a big structure like it normally is in the fetus. Okay. So back to VSDs. So here are some pictures of VSDs. Here's the classical perimembranous VSD. It's surrounded by the septal leaflet of the tricuspid valve, and the conducting tissue is running right here. Okay. Here's a muscular VSD from the left side. Here you see the membranous septum up here, the mitral and the aortic valve in fibrous continuity. And here the tricuspid valve separated from the pulmonary valve by this structure called the ridge above the ventricle, which in Latin is crista supraventricularis, or this is the parietal band and the septal band of the crista, or the ventricular internuclear fold. It's got so many names that you can't but be confused about it. So here's a ventricular septal defect in fetal life, and you can see it there. This is a muscular VSD like this one. See it there? Here's a membranous VSD. It's underneath the tricuspid valve, and it's got bare area. Here's the membranous VSD. And here's another muscular VSD in the short axis. So these are 4 5-chamber views, and this is a short axis view with the 2 papillary muscles in the left ventricle. And here's this muscular VSD in the middle of the heart. And one of the things about these muscular VSDs is that they don't know about closure at the time of birth. So some of them may close before birth, some of them may close just after birth, some of them may close late, and even some of them may never close. Okay? So that's really the important issue there. Here's some more muscular VSDs. You see on the top a muscular VSD with black and white imaging and also color imaging. Now the important thing is, how's the ventricular shunting going? It goes left to right in systole because the left ventricle is actually seeing a higher vascular resistance than the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery sees the pulmonary artery, the ductus, and the placenta. So that's a much lower vascular resistance. So in systole, the shunt is likely to be left to right. Okay? If the shunt is the other way around, it usually means there's some obstruction distal to the VSD that is causing a change. And you see in this example here, from the left side here, smooth upper border, here's the pulmonary artery, here's mitral aortic continuity, fine apical trabeculation, so this is the left side. And here it is on the right side, and here's this muscle that you can see over here dividing what looks like 2 ventricular VSDs into merely 1. Okay? Sorry, that went forward without my knowledge. So you see that there, and here you can see these muscular ventricular septal defects, and you see systolic left to right shunt and diastolic right to left shunting. Okay? There you go again, systolic left to right, not much in the way of diastolic shunting. And you can see, because there's a very small interventricular pressure difference between the left and the right ventricles in the womb, that the velocity of flow is very low across that VSD. On the top, you can see a perimembranous VSD, and on the bottom also a perimembranous VSD, much larger. This is looking at it from the left side. This is an echo cut. So there's the VSD immediately underneath the aorta here, and you can see a very substantial amount of flow going across this vessel. Here's another small interventricular shunt. So this is long axis. There's septum primum there. This is the mitral valve. Here's the left ventricle. Here's the aorta. There's the VSD right there. There's the shunt going across. Here's the pulmonary valve. Looks like a little bit of pulmonary stenosis. And there's the pulmonary artery going backwards as the aorta is going forwards. Here's another series of perimembranous VSDs, large perimembranous VSDs. And you can see here, immediately under the aorta and at the junction of the tricuspid and the mitral valve, that's where the LV outflow tract is the fibrous continuity between the two. So this is a perimembranous VSD in the womb. We're going to look a little later on, if we get to be that far, if you stay for this, we're going to look at AV canal defects or AV septal defects or intercardial cushion defects. So we're looking at the normal atrioventricular junction. And this is the aorta, and this is the mitral valve, and this is the tricuspid valve. And you can see how the aorta is wedged in between these two valves, and here's the pulmonary valve, okay? In an AV canal defect, this wedging never occurs. So the root is sprung out and there's a common AV junction. This AV junction is common regardless of whether you have an ostium primum ASD or a complete canal, okay? So what's important is the aorta doesn't sit in there, so that the left ventricular outflow tract is elongated in its length, okay? Here's the coronary sinus coming in here, but it's all part of one AV junction. Here's the superior bridging leaflet, here's the inferior bridging leaflet, and here's the mural leaflet of the left AV valve. And Dr. Alain Compontier of Paris said that the left AV valve in an AV canal is a tricuspid valve. And clearly it is, because there's 1, 2, 3 components to it. And there are actually 4 components on the tricuspid valve, but we don't talk about this. This is the so-called cleft in the mitral valve, okay? Here's 2 other examples with the valve closed, open, here. Here's the bridge of the septum that you can't see underneath here. And here's the valve closed with the cleft in the left component of the AV valve. Here's coronary sinus, and then coming into the right atrium. And here's this complete AV canal. Here's another example from the Chiappa book, which shows the valve from below, or from above, I beg your pardon. So this is what the surgeon sees when he goes in to fix an AV canal. Here's this so-called cleft in the mitral valve. It's not a cleft and it's not a mitral valve. That's why I call it a so-called cleft. But this is what the surgeon, who's Dr. Cheese, here? This is what he has to sew together when he looks at an AV canal defect. Okay? And this makes competence of this left AV valve after a valve. Now, when you see the bare area like this over here, 2 things are important. 1, the conducting tissue is running right underneath here, and 2, this is bare, and so there's an AV canal, complete AV canal defect. So let's look at some AV canal defects. Again, I have a normal heart for you with a normal 4-chamber view. Here's the septum, here's ostium primum, here's the septum primum here in the left atrium, allowing blood to go from the inferior vena cava to the left atrium. Okay? And here is an AV canal. This AV canal is looking from the back, so this is left side and this is right side. Here's the coarse trabeculations of the right atrium and the small atrial appendage on the left side. And this is the anterior bridging leaflet, which is coming across from left ventricular papillary muscle to right ventricular papillary muscle and leaving the septum bare on AV valve, which makes this a Rastelli type A, AV septal defect. And we can see the ostium secundum defect, the ostium primum defect, and the AV canal below that here. And we can also notice that the AV valve is leaking in this example, even in the fetus. And we can see if it's leaking like this in the fetus, it's going to be leaking much worse when the babies are born. So we get some idea of what it looks like. Now we can look at this by cutting a heart that way, but we can also see it on the valve. So we're looking at this from below upwards. So this is right ventricle, here's the septum, here's the left ventricle, here's where the atrial septum would be, and here's the common AV valve draining over both ventricles. Okay? But not only that, but this AV valve is not contacting the septum here. So we already know this is a type A AV septal defect, and we know that type A AV septal defect is much more common in Down syndrome. So when you see this, obviously there are things that you would have to do to look at it to see whether it's a type, I beg your pardon, this is a type C. Sorry, there's no attachment, this is a type C AV septal defect like this. So this is unlikely to be a Down syndrome, but could be a Down syndrome if there is also tetralogy below. Okay? Here's the type A AV septal defect. Here's the common AV valve, but you can see it's attached to the crest of the septum here. So there's a ventricular communication, but this valve has got almost 2 orifices with an attachment here, just as you see it here. So this is the type A, and this is type C, and this is the one that's at risk for Down syndrome. Also, look at the size of the right ventricular outflow tract here. So we look at a few more of these, okay? So this is type A AV septal defect. The bridging leaflet is attached to the crest of the septum. Here's the bridging leaflet attached to the crest of the septum. You must be looking at the anterior leaflet. Type B is very rare. I've never seen one in the fetus. And here's a type C AV canal. You see there's the valve leaflet. It's attached like this, across from there to there, but doesn't attach to the ventricular septum, just as we see on that specimen. Okay, so this is a type C. So this is much more likely in isomerisms, and it does occur in AV septal defects of the Downs type, but usually where there's a tetralogy of Fallot or an AV or another conotruncal defect. So if we look at the long axis, we know what a normal, looks like. Just a minute. I'm trying to go backwards, so it's going forward. Okay. So you can see here, this is a VSD. Okay. See, the septum and the aortic root are aligned. Here's the aortic root and here's the septum. And there's a VSD with shunt of the left to the right ventricle, even in the womb. Here's the normal anatomy. This is what we're looking at. In tetralogy of Fallot, the aorta is much bigger and overrides the septum here. So here's one over here doing that. And then here is a patient with transposition, where the left ventricle is continuous with the pulmonary artery. Here's the left ventricle, and there goes the left pulmonary artery, and here's the duct going into the descending aorta. Alright, so we'll look at a couple of those. So here's the tetralogy of Fallot. Here's the septum. Here's the great vessel root. Here's the aorta. Same here. And here is the specimen here. Okay, the specimen, it doesn't look like any of these because it's oriented in a normal position. So what I'll do with the specimen is I'll just move it over there like that. And now you can see how the aortic root overrides the ventricular septum. In addition to this, there's another interesting and important feature for the surgeon, in that when the tricuspid and the mitral and the aortic valves are in fibrous continuity with one another, then the conducting tissue is running here, and the surgeon needs to be careful not to put his stitches in there, otherwise he's going to come back with heart block. So we can tell that by what I've seen before when the two vessels are in continuity. And here is a black and white and color image obtained at the same time, and it shows you something interesting about tetralogy. See, we know there's a right to left shunt in tetralogy, but what we don't often know is that the right to left shunt is not going from the right ventricle to the left ventricle, it's going from the right ventricle into the aorta. And here you can see exactly that. You see blue flow and blue flow. Let me see if I can stop that. Yeah, I can stop it. So now let's go and look at systole. Eh? Look, there's systole there. Blue flow here and blue flow here, not going across there, but going up into the aorta. Let's see if there's another beat. Yes, here's another beat. See? So there's no right to left shunt, because if the shunt was right to left here, it would come red at ventricular level. The shunt is all at great artery vessel. Let me just do that again for you. Okay? And here I've put this specimen with the labels in, showing exactly that. There's the small left pulmonary artery coming out the back there. Okay? And the left atrium behind that. Okay? And fibrous continuity between the aorta and the mitral valve. Even in a 20-week fetus, we can see this phenomenon. Okay? Here, I've turned this specimen round so that you can see it here. Okay? This almost looks like a truncus with a hypoplastic aorta coming off behind it. Okay? So now here's some of the puzzles. Here is another specimen of tetralogy. Okay? And what you can't see is the pulmonary artery. And the question is this a common arterial trunk, or truncus arteriosus as you know it? Because you see the aorta filling at the same time as the pulmonary artery, and there's also aortic insufficiency going into the left ventricle. This is much more common in tetralogy than it is in truncus than it is in tetralogy. But if you look carefully over here, you can see here's the LV outflow tract, and here's the separate RV outflow tract over there behind it. So this is not arterial trunk, but really tetralogy below. And the secret in looking for tetralogy is this muscle here, which Dr. Van Praag calls the monology of Stenson, because a guy called Stenson saw a fetus and he made the diagnosis that in this condition there's really only one abnormality, and that's the anterior superior deviation of the outlet septum. And if this was clay, you could take it and push it across the VSD, would bring the aorta over the left ventricle, there'd be no RV outflow tract, and the right ventricular hypertrophy would disappear. So yeah, I think I like this term monology of Stenson because it tells us a lot about it. So now we'll have a look at the monology of Stenson, because I think that tells you that there's tetralogy. Okay? So here we look at the pulmonary artery, the aorta, and the right ventricle, right? Let's just take the labels off. Okay? And do you see this little muscle here? Okay, this is a 20-week fetus. The muscle is maybe 2 millimeters in length here, but this is tetralogy of the heart. Okay? First of all, there's a separate pulmonary artery and pulmonary valve, right? But when you see muscle like that in an outflow tract, it's tetralogy. You may have pulmonary atresia, but it's still tetralogy. Now, what I've done with this echocardiogram is I've taken it and turned it around, because sometimes when you look at the echocardiogram, you can see the anterior superior deviation here and the separate pulmonary artery. So this cannot be a trunk. Okay? Here's the superior vena cava coming into the right atrium. If you look at it opposite ways, it's not so easy to see. This is the long axis, and this is the short axis. This is the long axis here. So we look at this long axis, and once again, you can see that little deviated outlet septum. I'll just pull it so that you can see it. There it is. This is the deviated outlet septum. This is the conus septum. Here it is, the outlet septum. Deviated anteriorly, bringing the aorta over the right ventricle and narrowing the left ventricular outflow tract. Let me tell you that in tetralogy, there's nothing in the definition that says valvular pulmonary stenosis. It's all infundibular stenosis. And here is the sign that makes it so easy to recognize that this deviation of the outlet septum, almost invariably there's an abnormality of the pulmonary valve, and we'll be getting into that this afternoon if we're lucky, or tomorrow. Okay, so here's a tetralogy with aortic override. I've shown you that before. We have a unique ability to see MAPCAs in the fetus. Now the reason MAPCAs stands for Major Aortopulmonary Arterial Collateral Arteries, MAPCA. It's too difficult to say that, right? And this is a condition associated with tetralogy and pulmonary atresia. It used to be called type 4 truncus. And this is a magnetic resonance imaging series showing those arteries. They're not coming from the pulmonary artery, but they're coming off the aorta in various directions. So we can see that very nicely. I'll play it again. Let's play it. Okay, and you see the vessels coming off here and filling the 18 segments of the lung. Here's one, here's another. There's this curly Q going to the upper lobe. Okay. You can see this in utero very nicely. You see, here's the aortic arch, and here's a vessel that's not a ductus. It's coming, a ductus would come up over here. This is a mid-thoracic level vessel. There's another one there. Okay. It's way off the lower part of the aorta. And here's another example in a fetus. Here is MAPCAs, you see, coming off here at different levels. And here is a fetus that I examined, showing the descending aorta, several vessels coming off here, and even one vessel coming off the celiac artery and going in here. This baby was proven to have pulmonary atresia with major aortic pulmonary collaterals and came to my surgeon at Stanford, who's famous for making this repair. So there they are, and you can see them in utero, and you can see them better than we can see them after birth. And I've oriented the specimen to show you these vessels here coming off the aorta here. This is not the same baby, by the way. Very few of them are. Now, another variant of tetralogy is this variant called tet with absent pulmonary valve. And in actual fact, the myth is it's not an absent pulmonary valve. It's absent of complete development of the pulmonary valve. So here's the aorta with 1, 2, 3 cusps on it. And here's the pulmonary valve, which you can see has not developed. This is just the remnant of this pulmonary valve. And of course, when you look at it in the womb, it's associated with massive insufficiency across this valve and very big pulmonary arteries. And what happens is, if you look at the MRI, the pulmonary arteries are giant and they interfere with the pulmonary bronchial tree, the tracheobronchial tree, so that there's often obstruction. The cartilage is eroded because of this constant pulsation from the vessels, and these babies cannot breathe because they don't have any cartilage in their bronchi. If you and I didn't have cartilage in our bronchus, we would take one breath in and die. Okay? All right. So here is the typical finding. You see these giant pulmonary arteries. Here's the aorta. Look at the diameter of the pulmonary artery compared to the aorta. It's giant, eh? So here you see these big pulmonary arteries, the left and the... That's great. Okay. I didn't do anything. I've got no screen. We lost signal here. Is it coming? Ah, all right. Pardon? Okay. Well, it's, you know, it looks like it's fused. It's diffused here. Look, nothing goes on. It's trying to lock. Eh? Yeah. Give me a. I have a charger, but somehow it's not plugged in. Somebody took my charger out. Damn it. Maybe it's just my fault. Eh?